Today we're going to be talking about user inputs, and we're going to make a basic calculator with this. So, how do we get information from a user? Well, we're going to use the function input. And let's ask, we can ask, the user for some information, like how old are you? And what's going to happen is it's going to put on the screen, and it's going to ask how old you are. Well, we can also take this information, whatever the user gives us, and we can store it into a variable like age. So pretty much what we're going to do is we're going to do age equals input. So whatever the person inputs, it's going to store it into age. And then we can print it. Print age. So what's going to happen, the computer's going to ask us how old you are, you're going to tell it how old you are, and it's going to print out that age. How old are you? 31. 31. That's what it says right there. Okay. Well, we can also add some, we can add it and make it a little bit prettier here. We can say the user is age. Okay, so the user is age years old. Oh, we can't forget our plus signs, otherwise the computer's going to scream at us. So it says, how old are you? 31. The user is 31 years old. So it's pretty cool. We can get some information from the user. Let's ask it another question. Let's do desired age, and I'm gonna do underscore. Okay, so we're gonna do the same thing here. Input. How old would you like to be? So now we're asking the user two things. How old are you, and how old would you like to be? And just like we did before in the numbers, we said you can have a variable x, a, b, c. You can have those. Well, now we can also do a little bit of math with those, because remember, we can just replace this. So we could do something like answer. So we're going to make another variable. Answer is equal to, and let's do age minus desired age. I gotta make sure our variables look the same. And so what it should do is it should take age minus desired age, and then let's make it say the user wants to be okay, yeah, the user wants to be, and then we'll put plus desired age. So this is going to print out how old they want to be. And then this is going to say that is answer. Away. Okay. So it's going to ask them how old they are. It's going to ask them how old they want to be. And then it's going to take answer and it's going to take the age and minus the desired age, and then it's going to give us a little bit of information that we asked for here. This is gonna return an error though, and I'll explain to you why. So check it out. How old are you? 31, and I would like to be 21. And then it's gonna give us an error. Well, the reason it gave us an error is anytime you enter information in, whenever it asks you input, it always takes information as a string, these orange parts here, and you can't subtract one string from another string. So the only way for us to do that is to convert the age and desired age into something that the computer can recognize as math. So we know what integers are. Integers are whole numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4. So an integer is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we want to take these numbers and let's convert them into integers. We can do int age, and then we can do int, and we can do desired age. So now when we get information from the user, it's going to take age, and it's going to get that information from them, and it's going to convert it into a number, and it's also going to do the same here, and it's going to store it into answer. So let's see if this works this time. I'm 31 years old, but I want to be 21, and it says the user wants to be 21. The user wants to be 21. And then we have down here answer. Uh-oh, answer didn't print. Well, the reason that is because it's trying to add this again. So another problem with the integer problem. So if instead of using the plus sign, if we use commas, it'll return it. Okay, so I want you to understand what's happening here. It's the same problem that we were doing up here. It was trying to add an integer to a string on this part right here. So instead of using this plus sign, we're going to use these commas. So let's try again. 31. How old would you like to be? I'd like to be 21. And it says the user wants to be 21. That is 10 years away. Well, I'll never be 21 again because that's in the past, and that's never going to happen again. So a little brief overview of what we did here and why we got those little errors. The errors are because the computer sees things as if it's going to do, here's a comment for you guys. If you do string plus a string, that's good. That will work. If you do a string plus an integer and you're trying to print that out, it is not going to work. Will not work. Because the computer thinks you're trying to add something like this number to it. So the way around that is to do like this. String, comma, integer. And the computer won't try to add the two together. It'll just go, okay, string and then an integer. You can do a string plus a string because they go together. They're the same. But you can't add a number and that. So another problem that we could run into on this is if somebody put, how old are you? I'm 5.5, and I want to be 10. When it gets up here, it's going to have to add those two together, and integers, like I said, are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are whole numbers, and it's not going to understand, the computer's not going to understand what to do with a decimal, and it's going to give us an error. So what we need to use is what's called a float. Okay. So floats, those include decimal numbers. And so on. I mean, there's a bunch. 9.5. I mean, there's a bunch. So if you change this integer to a float, so instead of converting it to an integer, we can convert it to a float. You can then use decimal numbers. I'm 5.5 and I want to be 10. It's going to say that it's 4.5 years away. The user wants to be 10, and that is 4.5 years away. And it would also, see, it works with whole numbers and decimals, so that works for both of us. Alright, so this is how to make a this is how you take in information from a user, and this is how you do a simple math problem.